Good morning, everyone. I'll repeat this a little later, but at the end of this presentation, you're going to ask the question, can I get a PDF? Can I get a copy of these slides? And the answer, of course, is yes. I'm going to suggest you do that by sending a text to the number 66866 and texting the word tasks to that number. I'll repeat that again at the end, and so you don't have to do it right at this exact second, but just yes, the answer to that question is yes. Thank you, Julie. Thank you to the Maine Arts Commission for the opportunity to share a conversation about 12 tasks to sustain donors in turbulent times. Let's talk about that specifically. We are in a moment of disruption, a moment of stress. We're all experiencing it for ourselves, for our organizations. And I want to be appropriate to this moment. There's a saying that says you can't teach someone who's drowning how to swim. So I'm not here to give a whole new paradigm and rock your world and things. Chances are the things that we're going to talk about are things that you are already aware of and you already know. And my job is to make sure that we've covered all the bases in this moment. Some people are going to say, well, this is the new normal. Friends, this is not the new normal. The new normal is the moment where things are relatively stable in the now, and we can organize ourselves for what's coming up soon, and we can plan for what's coming up later. But this is not the new normal that we're in right now. I've taken to starting to call this the raw normal. And in the raw normal, the best that we can hope to do with an earthquake going on all around us is that we need to understand what's going on in the moment. We need to make adjustments on the fly, and we should be happy at the end of the day that we survived it and we're able to move forward. So the tasks that we're going to review today are the fundamentals. They're the things that we go into as if they were so well trained in us that we could respond automatically, kind of like as if we were a first responder or an ER physician or someone in the combat in the military, someone who could respond with instinct without actually having to think about it. So this morning, we're offering what I'm hoping is like an espresso shot. I'm going to give you 12 tasks. We're going to do this in that 24 minutes that Julie mentioned. Of course, we hope it's insightful, but most of all, we hope that this is actionable. And at the end of this, I'm happy to hang around for additional time for Q&A, for anything else that you want to talk about. And I'll have another invitation for you for how to continue this conversation as well. So to be clear, we're doing 12 tasks for donor relationships, donor and supporter relationships, which probably means that you probably need 12 other tasks to handle other responsibilities, like 12 tasks for your budget, or 12 tasks for team coordination, or 12 tasks for your facilities, or other things like that. I'm only today looking at this at the lens of your donor relationships, and here we go. Number one. People who run and who lead nonprofit organizations carry the weight of their organization's mission on their shoulders. But you can't carry that weight unless you yourself, unless you're taking care of yourself. So for the first one, I offer you a mantra, the mantra, inward, outward, forward. I want you to just repeat it out loud to yourself. Inward, outward, forward. If you can get that into your mind, you can keep your sanity through everything that's going on, because inward means that we take care of ourselves. We eat right, we sleep, we exercise, we take care of our family. We talk to them, we understand what they're going through because we need their support in order to be able to help our own organizations. We check with our friends and we check in with our neighbors. We are outward focused on our team and our volunteers, our board, our beneficiaries. And only after we've taken care of our inward and our outward are we ready to move our organizations forward with our donors, our supporters, and our stakeholders. And I'm going to give you a really interesting example here. I was writing this up just a little over a week ago to prepare it, and I realized that I had a blind spot. And I imagine some of you are going to think about this and realize you had blind spots as well. And it's a unique nature of this particular crisis that we need to know our neighbors in this moment. because we have people who live around us who are at risk, or we may become at risk at some point, and we may need the help of our neighbors. And my wife and I moved into a house a little over a year ago. We didn't know our neighbors. And so as a result of preparing this, I just wrote a quick letter and put it on the front doors of my 10 closest neighbors, a quick message that said, hey, we're home, we're friendly, and we're always willing to help a friend. And of course, I put it on social media with hashtag 10neighbors. And the next thing you know, not only did I have neighbors responding and people in my neighborhood responding, I actually got interviewed on local television for it. And hopefully we've inspired people all over the place to check in with their neighbors. This is why having a discipline that says you check in, you're inward, outward, forward, you're going to mind all of those gaps. Here's task number 2. This is a time to deliver actual care to your team. And I mean actual care. We're all familiar with the theory of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the one that says that self-fulfillment, self-actualization is at the top of the pyramid. And nonprofit organizations, in fact, all organizations live at the top part of the pyramid, but you can't do the work, you can't achieve a unity of purpose without people having their psychological and basic needs taken care of. In this moment, we need to reverse the polarity of that hierarchy, that our unity of purpose has to be about giving attention and giving care to our staff members and the members of our team, the people who in this moment need to know that we care about them as much as in good times they care about us and they care about our organization's mission. Please note, the reason that I put the word actual care and I circle it is we're not talking about just empathy here. We're not just, this is not just a casual, how are you doing? This is, do people actually feel connected? Have you reached out to them specifically and asked, how are you doing? Are you actually then providing the assistance that they need? And some people have issues of safety and security, and some people have issues of food and toilet paper and all basic kinds of things. That's the level of care that we need to be turning around and providing now. Not just for your members of your team. Task number 3 is about mobilizing your volunteers. Hey, in good times, your volunteers are a community of purpose. They're focused on your mission and they care about the work that you do. So of course, you must keep them informed as your programs change. And if there's any community, if there's any group that you can over-communicate to, it's the volunteers. They want to hear what you're thinking, they want to know what you're doing, and they want to be a part of it. But beyond your purpose, this is also the chance to activate a community of care among your volunteers. If you haven't done this already, I suggest you do this immediately. Reach out to 3 or 4 of your best activists. Chances are you're going to find they already took the initiative and did this on their own. But just in case they didn't, ask them, hey, volunteers, can you reach out to all of our volunteers in the same way that reaching out to our staff and our team? Can you reach out to all of our volunteers and offer help that's personal and proactive and practical? And I'll tell you what, I might even go so far as to say, this isn't just our current volunteers. Let's go back in time 2 or 3 years, people who have volunteered for us in the past. Let's go and reach out to them in this moment and say, hey, once you're a member of our family, you're always a member of our family, and we continue to care about you, and that's why we're checking in. Here's task number 4. This is the moment to safeguard your donor management systems. Let's start with, have you backed up your records? Who has access to that? And if only one person has access to that, this is the time to make sure that 2 or 3 people have access to that and have access to that backup information. Why 2 or 3? Because God forbid someone gets sick and is going to be out of commission for some period of time. Your donor information, your records are your organization's lifeblood. You have to have this information in order to know who to communicate with and how to continue an ongoing conversation with them. If you have not backed that up, You need to do that today. You need to do that before you go to bed tonight. I'm going to make the same point about your servers and the vendors upon which your donor management systems are based. A lot of small organizations have servers in their offices, for example. I'm going to give you a quick example. Years ago, Julie knows I ran a small nonprofit organization, and one morning we came in, discovered a window had been broken in our office, and our server was stolen. And the police shared with us that this was not about the hardware. They weren't looking for the computer. This was identity theft. They wanted the information on the hard drive to go and get, to be able to contact those people looking for credit card information or other vulnerable information. In this environment, if some people have offices that are closed or remote and you're not going in, if you're not accessing that information daily, then the question is, how many days would it be before you might even notice that your server and all of its information was stolen? Similar with your vendors, this is the time to touch base with them. Who's your key contact? Who is their backup? Is there any question of your access to information? I would tell you, back up everything locally right now. Protect yourself from other people's challenges. The processes of donor management mean that many of you are fundraising in this moment. You're sending out requests and the monies are coming in either online or they're coming in through the mail. Whatever are your processes, and please, I hope that you have written accounting policies, but even if you don't, whatever your best practice is, this is the time to make sure that you have your controls in place and you're exercising quality control, that you and someone else in leadership is double checking to make sure that everything is going right. Please let me emphasize this point incredibly. You don't compromise on fundamentals during times of crisis. You depend on those fundamentals. Right now, it's critically important that you pay attention to your processes. Okay, here's the point that I think you all were hoping I was going to get to first, but understand you have to take care of all those other things before you are ready. But now you are ready to start calling your largest donors. Your largest donors, I think of generally in that 80-20 rule, the Pareto principle, the one that says that 20% of your donors generally give 80% of your proceeds. It's the one that says that you wear 20% of your clothes 80% of the time, same kind of thing. This is the moment to reach out to your largest donors in ways that are genuine and sensitive and singular. That means one person from your organization is calling them. They're not getting 3 or 4 different phone calls from different people asking the same questions. What are you asking these people? I'm suggesting a sequence of 3 questions. First, how are you and your family doing? If the people who you're talking to are calm and collected and they're feeling safe and secure, it's okay to move to question 2. But if the answer to question 1 is, hey, we got some real problems going on here, respond to them as a human, respond to them and be helpful and be happy that that's all that you had to do. But if they're ready for question number 2, you can ask them, what's your sense of the future? And some people are going to be optimistic and some are going to be pessimistic and some people are going to be as uncertain as we are. And you know what? It's okay. Our job is not to sell them on a different sense of the future. Our job is to meet them where they are. And you know what? If they're pessimistic and they're not thinking about the future, then let it go there. Stop the conversation and just check in with them and let them know that you're there. If they're optimistic, if they're thinking about the future, you're ready for question 3, which is, where do you see needs or opportunities for our organization to be of even greater service in this moment? And I want you to be really conscious. This is your chance to be the solution, the hope, the bright spot. Think of the emotional connection that you're making, because the next time you call that donor, you want them to see your phone number and your name on their caller ID, and you want them to associate you with a feeling of being uplifted and positivity. You don't want them to look at your name and go, oh, that person brought me down the last time I talked to them. That's why the 3rd question here is not a downer question. It's not, oh my gosh, we've got payroll coming, or we've got this big expense, or how are we going to do this, or we're going to go out of business. Those are the kind of questions that cause dread. Ask them an uplifting question. Where do you see opportunities for us to be done, what can we be doing for the future? And there's this little adage that I remember learning years ago, the one that says, if you want money, ask for advice. And if you want advice, ask for money. So this need not be a place where you're asking for money. Asking for advice can open up the kind of productive conversation you need going forward. Okay, beyond your largest donors, here's how you're going to inform and involve all your donors. Obviously, you've already let them know about closings and changes and cancellations. And by the way, I would always include a link to the Center for Disease Control, to their website for factual information. Factual scientific information is our friend here. I think everyone should be sharing it as much as possible. But beyond the closings, changes, and cancellations, this is the moment where we also need to convey two other things to all of our supporters: a continuity of purpose that says now more than ever, our organization is important, the work that we do is critical. And also the ability to say that we can share the perspective of our beneficiaries, that we can help our donors see the world through the eyes of the people who their contributions support. That is to awaken a perspective beyond their own direct experience. Think of this as an exercise in empathy. And as I was preparing this presentation, I got an email. It arrived literally as I was working on this part of it. And it comes from a nonprofit in the Boston area called Families First. And just pay attention to these three elements of their email. Number one, they say, our team is working diligently to continue supporting families in the following ways. There you are, continuity of purpose. Number two, look, they've given 4 bullet points that show action-oriented. This is what we're doing. And these aren't brand new things that they're doing necessarily. They're maintaining contact. They're launching a new page on the website. They're joining forces with other partners, and they're about to roll out new online videos. It's very clear. And then I love this number 3. Because of our network of supporters, we're able to pivot quickly to respond to the current situation. Look, they didn't ask for money here. They're thanking their donors already for being supporters, and they're being stewards, and you have the opportunity to be stewards in this moment. Here's the other side of the spectrum, because I want to say that desperation is a choice. Again, in the midst of preparing all this, I saw this notice come from an arts venue. I'm not going to name them. I don't really wish to shame them, because desperation is a choice. But this message literally was how they were quoted in their paper, and I quote, "It's difficult to predict how much we'll lose, so we are mounting a $6.5 million emergency campaign for lost revenue and sunk expense," close quote. Well, we all have lost revenue and sunk expense, but nobody's need to get inspires anybody's wish to give. So if you are feeling that desperate, I understand it, and there may be a time where it's important to share that, but you could operate at a higher plane before you get there. I also suggest avoiding binary choices, avoiding yes, no, will you give or won't you give. Try asking questions with multiple choice, like, when would be a good time to ask you for your support? Now, 30 days, 60 days, or 90 days from now? Would you like to donate now, or would you like to volunteer and help us with our phone tree or something else along those lines? Here's another one as you're reaching out to all your donors. Be very careful of changed sensibilities. Again, my emails just keep coming in and they keep giving me examples, and I love this example from Shutterfly. The words are beautiful. They say the right things. We face uncertainty in the current moment. We're all in this together. We're grateful to be part of your family. But really, folks at Shutterfly, did no one take a look at the picture that they were putting in the middle of all this and say, do we have a picture that conveys anything other than spreading contagion between germy hands? I mean, were there no other pictures to take care of? Friends, I just want to suggest this is the moment. Whatever communication you're sending out, put it in front of a spouse or a friend, someone who can look at it with fresh eyes, and just ask the question, Are we missing anything obvious here? And there you go. All right, here's task number 7. We need to start getting smarter. And we do that by learning. Learning is leading in this moment. You've got your online survey, your Survey Monkey kind of stuff. This is the perfect chance to start surveying small percentages of your donors, maybe just 5% every week or every other week, and ask them these questions. How are you doing? Scale of 1 to 5, it's a temperature check. 2, ask for fresh testimonials, like what makes our organization's mission especially important right now. Those fresh testimonials are gold for you as you're sending out further communications because they're timely and they're relevant to this moment. And once again, ask all your donors, in this environment, where else do you see priority needs for our services? Use their creativity. Here's task number 8. Don't give up. Now, I put the picture of this road because I want to imagine that you're driving your car and you've got to get through this muddy road, and friends, there's just no way to get through it without getting muddy and possibly getting stuck. And here are the 3 hardest places to sustain donors. Number 1, you've got people who are going to come to special events. They were coming to galas or golf tournaments or whatever else you were doing. The relationship shift that's going on was they were coming to you for something fun, and you want to see if you can get them to keep sending their money, but that means you have to get them to a place of caring. That shift, going through that muddy patch, is not an easy one. I'm happy to answer questions about it, but my goodness, there's not a turnkey solution to that other than don't assume that people who are coming to you for fun automatically have a sense of caring built in. For foundations and other grant makers, look, this is golden rule. They have the gold, they make the rules. The best thing we can do at this moment is to offer them some helpful dialogue. There's been a lot of reporting of a lot of funders who are being very generous and flexible. They're allowing for restricted monies to be used for general operating purpose. You know what, this is a great time to share with your foundations and other grant makers. This is what other people are doing. Just want to make you aware of it. I'm not trying to shame anyone, but we're trying to get the dialogue going here. Many of you might have audiences who bought tickets, and you're looking to see if you can get that ticket sale converted into a contribution. My advice to you is don't presume that their ticket sale had charitable intent behind it. You're going again from fun to caring when you ask them to, from earned revenue to contributed revenue, when you ask them to make that contribution. I do suggest finding ways to offer intangible value. Intangible value means that you don't have to qualify the dollar value that you're providing. Intangible might mean simply as, you know what, we're going to call you up, or we're going to Skype you or FaceTime, and we're going to sing to you directly, or we're going to perform a sonnet for you, or we're going to read you a bedtime story, or whatever it is. Try keeping them entertained, your audience, because they came to you for entertainment in the first place. Here's task number 9. I want you to make space for your vision statement. Look, every organization has a mission statement, that core purpose that unifies priorities and plans. But the vision statement is the statement of our ultimate achievement of our efforts. It's the difference, for example, with the Alzheimer's Association, whose mission statement is really clear about global research and risk reduction and early detection. And the vision statement is simply a world without Alzheimer's. And if you were the California Arts Council, the mission is about strengthening arts as tools to cultivate. You can almost feel the energy is downward. They're pushing benefit downward. But look at how a vision looks upward. A California where all people flourish with access to participation in the arts. The point that I'm trying to make here is that this is a moment to think not so much about the how, but about the what. Because the what is uplifting, and if you leave yourself and your team 12 minutes, 12 purposeful minutes every day to make space for your vision statement, you can stay afloat, you can keep your sanity, you can keep moving toward the goodness that your mission intends. Let me also say, this is where resilience comes from. Resilience is focusing on your vision, and sometimes you have to prune a rose bush severely so it'll grow back even stronger for the future. Here's task number 10. I want you to remember what hasn't changed. What hasn't changed for your donors is they still give to you out of reasons that they have confidence in you, that you make a difference, that you are personally significant to them, or that you are feeling a sense of that they feel a sense of connection either individually or to a community. The Godfather would be a lousy fundraiser for a nonprofit. But the Godfather has this wonderful saying where he would say, you know, it's not personal, it's business. As fundraisers, we know that fundraising is personal and it's business. But here's what I want you to realize has changed. Keep looking at the Godfather, the picture there, and see that I've just reversed him, because we are in a reverse Godfather moment, because here's what's changed for your donors: their capacity, their urgency, their sense of priority, and their sense of loyalty, their feeling of loyalty. All of that may be compromised in this moment. And in a reverse Godfather quote, I would say, it's not business. These organizations, these people who have donated to you in the past, they still respect you, they still love you, but their world may be very different. It's not business, it's personal. Task number 11, I want you to ask better questions. The first question you should be asking is, are you positioned merely as a beneficiary of your community's generosity? If your communications are all, help me, help me, help us, then you're positioning yourself as merely a beneficiary of generosity. Here's a much better question. What is your organization's opportunity to contribute to the recovery, health, and collaborative spirit of your community? That's not help us, that's how can we help? Because number 12, this is a moment for arts and cultural organizations in Maine and everywhere to take collaborative action. You know, we get together at MICA. I love your MICA conference. And we say things like, we are stronger together. Well, now is the time to prove it. When you come to those meetings and you meet your colleagues from other cities and towns around the state of Maine, I'm going to suggest that this is the moment that you should be picking up the phone and calling them up and asking them, how are you doing? And how is your organization doing? And can we buddy up? Let's check in every few days and compare notes and see if we can't figure out how together we can get through this. The future, this is my quote, the future is unknowable, but it is certainly malleable. And by that, I mean that the goodwill that you invest today with your donors, with your team, with your volunteers, with everyone who supports your organization, what you invest today multiplies far into the future. So as we begin to wrap this up, I'm going to suggest another way to take collaborative action. I created a Facebook group. I've never done a Facebook group before, but I'm offering this webinar all over the country for all kinds of nonprofits. I've created a Facebook group where we're inviting anyone who's interested in talking about this. How do we compare notes? A place to share ideas. If you go to Facebook and you just type in crisis engagement, or you search crisis engagement for nonprofit organizations, you'll see there's a bunch of, there's one page that's already set up. And when you come to the page, I just said, let's just make sense of the raw normal. Finally, I want to just end where we began. Inward, outward, forward. That was your mantra. I want you to remember that the donor support that is the fuel for our organizations, this is our opportunity to work on right now. We can wait to rehearse, we can wait to perform, we can wait to get back together in galleries. But what we can't wait for is to orient ourselves, our team, and our donors to the vision that is the core to what each of our organizations was created to realize. There's no reason to wait to orient ourselves towards that important objective. And that's the goal of these 12 tasks, to get us back to the work that we need to do as safe and as effectively as we possibly can. I'm going to take my screen off in just a minute, but for anyone again who is looking for a copy of all of these slides, if you text the word tasks, T-A-S-K-S, to the number 66866, you'll get a bounce back message that asks for your email address, and that will immediately go into my email account. I will send you in about an hour a copy of the slides of this. I'm going to send you an evaluation form. I'm going to send you a link to the Facebook group, and I'll even send you a link to the TV news story about my 10 neighbors letter that you want. And one special extra benefit, if you fill out the evaluation form, I've got a special gift for you. I will give you my cell phone number if you fill out the evaluation form, and I will invite you. If you want to talk about any of the specific challenges that you're facing in your organization, and you just want a friendly, independent person just to talk about it with, I invite you to call me. Call me anytime. Like you, I'm sitting at home looking for things to do, and I would love nothing more than to hear from you and talk about the challenges that you're facing. And with that, Julie, I'm going to turn this back over to you for Q&A, and I'm happy to answer all the questions that anyone might have.
Excellent. So just as a reminder, thank you, Matt. That was terrific. That was really inspirational, and I think it's something that we really needed right now. So I just wanted to remind people that if they have questions, that they need to put them in the chat box. And I need to just move this over so that I can see it again. There we go. Oh, no. My chat box moved. Put them in the chat box, and we'll answer them as we go. So I do have a couple of questions for you, Matt, on behalf of everyone. So if you could answer just a few of these, that would be great. So
sure.
First question is, we have a spring fundraising campaign scheduled for later this month. How should we decide whether or not to proceed?
Yeah, so a lot of people are having this question, and it's a really important one. Obviously, if your fundraiser is an in-person fundraiser, you've got all kinds of challenges and limitations on what you can do. I don't know, is Maine under a stay-at-home order?
Yes.
Like we are here in Arizona?
Yep.
Yeah. So obviously, if it's a physical gathering, that ain't happening. That's just clear. So then the question is, well, what if this was a mailing that we were sending out or an online thing? And my answer for you is, if you are relevant to the moment, if the information that you're putting out is respectful of what's going on in this crazy, unprecedented moment, then I would say go for it. Pursue it. But if an objective person looks at this, which is why I say go to a spouse, go to a friend, go to someone you don't like, even, and just say, what would you think about receiving this message in this moment? If that doesn't ring true, if it feels, if someone says, boy, this just doesn't seem as important as all the other stuff that's going on, then respectfully, I would say this is your time to hold off. Because the only thing worse than sending out no fundraiser is sending out an inopportune one. And you do not want to be tone deaf in this moment. Just do not be tone deaf in this moment. That's the most important thing.
Thank you. We do have one question in the chat box. How do you best apply these tasks to smaller nonprofits? We have a lot of very, very small nonprofit arts organizations all over the state. This particular one recently started a new revisioning and redesigning time for their mission, vision, and community engagement. Where do they start now?
Sure. And actually, I can see it. That message is from Kaylin. And hey, Kaylin, this is a beautiful, it's a perfect question for this moment. And, you know, if you've already started the revisioning and the redesigning for your mission, vision, and community engagement, perfect. Because this is the moment where you go back and you start at vision. Vision is the place to go back to. And just like if you were pruning the rose bush, you're going to go back. Does this vision still matter? Are we still jazzed about this? Do we care about this? Does anyone care about this in this moment? Vision is where resilience comes from. So if that vision still makes sense, you are still alive and everything is possible. From vision, you would then look at mission. And mission, I have to say, even if you had redone your mission statement a month ago or 2 months ago, in theory, mission statements are durable and they're supposed to get us through even tough times. But this tough time is unlike, it's worse than a lot of tough times that we've ever imagined before. And so I would say, let's not be too rigid on the mission statement at this moment. Let's acknowledge that even if we put it in place just a couple of months ago, it may need to be rethought. But vision is where I would start. Mission. You didn't mention values, and I would say this is another place where those 3 or 4 or 6 values that you've surrounded your organization with is also a really good time to have that conversation. I went back, even for my company, I went back yesterday and looked at my values and realized that resilience was not among them. And I had something else in my own company values that is useful in regular times, but in this moment, it's not as important as resilience. And I just went ahead and made the official switch in my documents to recognize that. So where is resilience? What is the value that you and your organization need in this moment? And Kaylin, one last thing. Where do you start? I know that everything I just said was kind of inward focused. Let's sit down and work on our vision statement and our mission statement and our values. But the other place to start is with your donors. And in this moment, ask them for the advice. With everything going on, with the economy stalling out and all of this going on, ask them, how do we talk about this in a way that is still relevant so that other donors would want to support this and that we're still doing something that's important in our community in this moment? So don't make this purely an internal function. This is inward, outward, forward. Keep coming back to that. Get yourself inward first, then outward, and then talk to your donors about how do we move forward in this, but keep that mantra going. I hope that helped, Caitlin. I really hope.
So Matt, we have another question that has to do with balancing. You see that there, it's many performing arts organizations and individuals are moving to offer free online streaming of music services, and my chat just went up. How do we balance this with the reality that our musicians now have no income? How can we responsibly support them while reaching out with free services?
Yeah. So I want to just remind you, I forget whatever it was. My number 2 was about providing actual care for your team. And so we're reversing the hierarchy here. I said reverse the polarity. And this is critically important. Before you can go out and try to get your donors and your audiences and to try to keep them all engaged, you owe a responsibility to your team. And so that's Wilhelmina asked that question. And caring for your musicians just became job number 1 for your organization. And so when we reversed the polarity on that hierarchy pyramid, it just became your responsibility to help them. So yes, you might go to your donors and say, this is how this is affecting our musicians in this moment. This was their primary source of income, or this was their necessary secondary source of income for what they were doing. They were relying on this. And here's the struggle that they have in their moment. When you help our organization, we in turn are providing essential services. And if that means you're helping with groceries and you're helping with, going to the grocery store for people who can't be out and about, and you're delivering to your musicians, if that's what's necessary, that's job 1. I was very clear. You've got to take care of your team before you can take care of your donors first. And absolutely, that is the responsibility. we human beings are kind of tribal by nature. And so I know that our knee-jerk reaction is, well, we got to get the money. We got to keep our organization in business. We can allow our tribal instincts to kick in even more. And your tribe are the people who work with you and perform for you. And you absolutely have to turn that pyramid around and provide them actual care in this moment. Once you've done that, you'll have done a couple of things. One is you will have earned their support for turning your organization around going forward, and that's the long-term view of it. And in the short term, you're providing essential care to people who are members of your family, and that's where you need to be spending your time right now.
So I have another question here for you, and this kind of ties into the one that Wilhelmina just asked, but our cash flow situation is critical and another payroll is coming. Isn't that a good enough reason to choose desperation as a fundraising tactic?
Yes and no. Okay? Your need to get doesn't inspire anyone else's need to give. Now, you may have a donor. I used to know an organization where when, if they didn't have the cash at payroll, there was a very substantial donor who would step in and cover payroll at a moment's notice and large dollar amounts. And if you've got a donor like that, bless you and bless them. And, you know, and that's wonderful. It's rare. It's rare that happens. So, you know, I hate to be the one to say this, there's going to be a disruption. And if you've got a payroll, if you've got some other expense and you simply don't have the cash for it, it's not going to happen. And going to your donors and begging and raising the alarm at large, I can't say you should never do it because your situation may be unique, and I don't really want to issue a blanket statement here. But I do want to say, when you put out a message like that, a message of desperation, you're tainting your wealth. You're spoiling the place that you need to go. Your fundraising is so much more powerful when you can be positive and constructive in something and not when you're coming from desperation. So I can't say never do it, but I would strongly discourage you from doing it in this moment. In this moment, your better question is, what can we do to be of help to the greater community? And how can we fundraise in support of that?
So there's another question in the chat box that, I think you've answered this, but if you could just maybe summarize it again. Any general tips for small arts organizations who are up against many needs for essential services? How do we compete with dire food, shelter, and healthcare needs without being insensitive?
So look, I've answered this question twice, and I'm happy to answer it again, but honestly, I don't have a practical answer for you, right? In theory, I'm saying be relevant to the times and don't be tone deaf, and that's all fine and good. Let me suggest this is why I created the Facebook group. So this is a better question to ask other people who are fundraising, whether they're doing it in the arts or in any other field as well, and ask that question there. Chances are someone has either tried something really creative and gotten really good response to it, or they've tried something and it's blown up badly for them and they're willing to share the lesson from that. So I don't know that I can't tell you the magic words to say this and you will look as important as feeding people who are on food stamps and who are suffering from critical illnesses or other issues. There's no magic cure for that. But have a dialogue with other people who are doing the same things, and we can all learn from each other in this moment. But that's Kelly, and Kelly, here's the beautiful part about asking your question. Just the fact that you ask the question, how do we do this without being insensitive, means that you're already aware of this. And I'm hoping that everyone on this call is kind of awakened to that level of sensitivity as well. So I think that's as far as I can go in answering it. I'm sorry, I wish I had a better answer for you.
And I just want to remind people too that we have resources on our website. There are other other resources that you can go to for funding right now, including the Small Business Administration disaster relief loans that are forgivable. So I believe that those are up today, and all of that information is on our website, as well as what's forgivable, the kind of the guide that you go through. You're going to need to go to a bank that already provides Small Business Administration loans, and they can help guide you through the process. But the new guidelines are up today, and you should be able to access them. Also, if you were a self-employed artist, you have the ability to access that resource. And if you are an artist, you also can apply for unemployment to supplement your income. And the same thing is true for nonprofit organizations. Their employees are also eligible for unemployment insurance that weren't eligible in the past. I do know that the states, I believe I heard this morning on the news, that the state's unemployment system, telephone system crashed a few days ago, but all of that is supposed to be up and running today, I believe. So just be patient. There are, literally thousands of people applying for these funds, and but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't go out and get access to them. All right. I think we should wrap up. I think that is everything for now. But again, we also have surveys for everybody for the economic impact of this crisis on your organization and your business. So please go to our website and fill out the survey. If you're an artist, if you're an organization, that information is being shared with our federal delegation as well as the state economist. And it's really important that you provide this information so that we can continue to let everybody know that our sector truly needs support. So we're trying to do whatever we can. Also, please keep your eyes peeled for other webinars. We are exploring some other assistance that could help you get through this resilience and trauma. I know everybody is feeling very concerned and worried right now. So we're going to do whatever we can to help you. Our artist grant deadlines are next week. We still have not heard anything from the NEA about the additional funds that are going to be coming our way. But as soon as we get that information, we will get it out to all of you. All right. So thank you, Matt. That was terrific. We really appreciate you doing this for us free of charge. It's great to see you.
Thanks for the opportunity. Julie, I'm so grateful to you and to the Maine Arts Commission for offering this to everyone. I'm seeing everyone's thanks chat messages, and I'm grateful to all of you. Keep doing the work that you're doing. And remember, if you want all the information I just talked about, just text the word tasks, TASKS, to 66866, and then fill out the evaluation form that I send you, and I'll give you my phone number, and happy to talk to you. Julie, thank you so much.
Thank you all so much for being here today. We appreciate it. Bye-bye. Take care of yourselves.